Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Let's welcome back to another Network and Chill Lunch and Learn edition. I'm your co-host Chris Red, joined by my other co-host Ricky Mason. We're excited to be back, brother. It's good to see you, man.
And
Let's
good to
give
see you
everyone
too, bro.
a few minutes to hop on and get online. We'll let people do that. Once you join in, let us know where you're dialing in from, where you're calling from. Maybe drop your business or LinkedIn in the chat as well, just to build some community and connections around not only in Louisville but through Kentucky and throughout the region as well. So go in there and feel free to be interactive today and hop into the chat and ask questions. I think today will be a great opportunity to find out some local resources and grants and opportunity to fund your business from a non-dilutive standpoint. So I'm super excited. And
Man, talking about non-dilutive capital, like free money, like that's like every entrepreneur wants free money. So I think that we should have a great talk today, a very interesting talk and a very fruitful talk for startups and entrepreneurs looking to, start a business without giving up any equity.
yeah, I definitely agree. I think it's a great way. Like we were talking about bootstrapping and finding ways to fund your business. And so I think we haven't really focused on this one quite as enough. So today's will be really insightful. Before I pass over to Ricky, kind of do a quick introduction. Just want to throw out a couple upcoming events we have as well. Coming up March 22nd, Alicia McCoy. We're really talking about her SaaS business in the mental wellness and health space. She's a great founder out of Indianapolis, Indiana. And then dropping today, we'll get the link out today. We're hosting with a Louisville Scoop and YPAL being a part of just a great getting back to a networking event, purely networking. We know we have a lot of new people moving to the city or into the region, into the area. Now more entrepreneurs are launching their businesses and just a really diverse, professional community. So we're gonna have a great fun event from 5 to 7 on March 24th. So really excited to kind of connect back in person and meet some folks and that we haven't met. And hopefully Ricky and I might have some fun things coming out of Network and Chill for that event as well. Really focus on more of the Web3 space and the crypto community. So we love to meet you over there at the Loft. Details will come out today. Really, well, hopefully we can connect with you all and maybe get you a drink or something like that. But until then, we'll have some upcoming events in April as well. So stay on the lookout. And I'll pass it to Ricky.
Yeah, and I'm excited about those upcoming events. Stay on the lookout. But today with us, we have Miss Monique Quarterman. She'll be talking to us about, grants and non-dilutive funding. Monique serves as the executive director for the Kentucky Commercialization Ventures, as a senior leadership team member at the Kentucky Science and Technology Corporation, or KSTC, if you're familiar, and as a lead and co-founder of the Kentucky Intellectual Property Alliance. Without further ado, I'll bring Monique to the stage.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's a joy to join you.
Hey, Monique, good to have you. Really appreciate you hopping in today. It's good to see you. It's been overdue for this conversation. So we're really excited for you to join us and drop some knowledge on us today.
Thank you. Grants are some of my favorite things in the world. It's one of the less recognized instruments in entrepreneurship. So I'm so excited to share more about what we work on all the time.
And I guess before we get and started with that conversation itself, give us a background of who you are, Monique, and what are you doing, and then we'll hop into the conversation.
Absolutely. And first, thank you so much, Ricky and Chris, for inviting me here. It's a joy to join you. I'm a huge fan of Network and Chill. I am originally from Hardin County, Kentucky. I used to pass the Gold Vault on the way to school every morning. And being a native Kentuckian, there's so much opportunity that is out there. But one of the opportunities that I didn't hear often enough is about the opportunity to have a career in tech and STEM. So when I went to the University of Louisville, I first got my first introduction with the FFA program, Future Farmers of America. Thought it was so cool how they were mixing genes and plants and all that good stuff. Went to the University of Louisville and got connected to a concept called technology transfer. And what that is the university taking all of the wonderful ideas. We're talking cures for cancer, cures for COVID, anything that you can imagine, and packaging it to make it attractive to partner with industry, partner with government to bring it to the market. I was so fortunate to learn about how academia funds this process of research and coming up with new solutions. And I was thrilled to learn as part of an SBIR, or Small Business Innovation Research Company, a Black-owned company, woman-owned company right here in Louisville, that opportunity exists for small businesses that are non-academic affiliated as well. So with Kentucky Commercialization Ventures, I took those lessons from being in academia and in the startup space, the small business space, smashed them together, and now we're working with innovators all across Kentucky to fund their solutions to change the world. It's been a beautiful process to be a part of, and I want to share that process with more people.
Oh yeah, that's amazing. Like I said, I came out of academia also, and kind of seeing those grants and CBERs come through. You kind of always think that they have to come through a university or some other entity like that, but no, they're available for small businesses. And I mean, like you were saying before, they're looking for more small businesses to apply for those grants. But can you break that down a little bit for us? Like, okay, what's the difference between dilutive and non-dilutive funding for some of our guests?
That's a great question, Ricky. So the best way I like to explain it is dilutive funding is funding in exchange for a piece, right? Sometimes people are really familiar with the show Shark Tank, right? And I like Shark Tank because it makes it very clear that these sharks or venture capitalists aren't just putting in money in the form of a donation, right? They're expecting to be part of the business. And by part of the business, in exchange for their funding, they're expecting a percentage of the company, some level of control of the company in exchange. And that can be a very effective way to bring products to the market, but it is a sacrifice to the founder, because once that company blows up, that's a piece of the profit that they have to share with those partners, those venture capitalists, right? Non-dilutive funding is basically funding that you can get and put into your business that you don't have to give up control of your business for. And out of non-dilutive capital, the version that people are most familiar with on the street are things like small business loans, right? The bank or a financial institution gives you funding for your business. Maybe they charge some interest on top, but you get to keep 100% of your company. The grants that I'm most familiar with and get most excited about are the non-dilutive funding that comes from our federal government and our state government, which in exchange for coming up with an idea, coming up with a company that's designed to help people in our state and nation, and come up with something innovative in that process, you don't have to give up part of your business. And if your company goes forward and is successful, you get to keep that profit that's coming into the business. So in my opinion, sometimes it can be the best of both worlds.
Yeah, no, I
I
think
love
that's
it. And
amazing.
particularly, I love like your passion about Kentucky and helping Kentucky entrepreneurs in that space and really seeing the best of both worlds. I guess, give us like some of the tactical things locally, like an entrepreneur can get involved in around that grant funding and some of the things that the resources maybe some don't know about. And then maybe Ricky, we can go a little deeper into those resources and maybe get some of those things in the chat for those listening to get involved in.
Absolutely. And let me start from a high level, right? Because there are so many resources in our state for small business owners, for tech business owners in general in our state right now. So I saw Lisa Bajornes, hi friend, on the call as well. She's leading our Kentucky Innovation Hubs, which are designed for startups across the Commonwealth to be able to have a front door access in their community to someone who knows the startup process, can get you connected and all the different things, so that you don't have to remember all the programs, all the acronyms. And we're a very close together working community. So sometimes we'll go looking for one answer, and then I might in the same day pick up the phone and call across the state. That's how close our relationships are. You want to leverage that as you develop your business. We also have Kentucky Commercialization Ventures, which if you think about the Kentucky Innovation Hubs being a front door for that process of going to market for tech businesses that are just regular Kentucky citizens. Kentucky Commercialization Ventures is doing that for the academic side. So if you think about it, prior to KCV launching in 2020, July of 2020, it was about 55,000 people in the state of Kentucky supported by this resource, either faculty, staff, or student. Once KCV came on board, that community grew to over 220,000. This is our community and technical college system, our land-grant HBCU, Kentucky State University, our regional universities. So we have all of these resources in the mix. Oh, and by the way, we have an awesome nonprofit through Kentucky Science and Technology Corporation that has a suite of programs designed to dial into opportunity. So things like the Kentucky Science and Engineering Foundation, which focuses on programs to have access to small business innovation research grants. We have the Kentucky Enterprise Fund, or KSTC Venture Finance, which is offering dilutive investment with the goal of proliferating more successful businesses across the Commonwealth. We have our Kentucky Procurement Technical Assistance Center. For those who may be unfamiliar, it's one of the best in the nation for taking Kentucky-based businesses, connecting them with opportunities in registration and training to get them ready for partnership with government. These are the sort of things that we want to see more people take advantage of. And I'll cover the matching funds program in a minute because it's related to those grants.
Yeah, we got to get those resources listed on the Rhetoric website.
Yes.
Yeah.
Definitely make a note of that to get those listed after the talk. Could you talk more a little bit about some of those things? I know you said KCV kind of works with on the academic side. Could you talk about that, like where students and professors, how does that kind of work? What are the opportunities for students to, get involved and get their projects funded? Because I always feel like students, if you're 16 to 24, you have the most expendable time to kind of work on your startup and grow a business. So how does that work?
Absolutely. Students are like my favorite subject across the Commonwealth. And it's my favorite subject, especially right now. We just had an article break in Kentucky NL about our KCV Innovation Fellows Program, which is the child of our KCV colleague, Kayla Meisner. It's taking students from across the Commonwealth. We're talking Murray State University, Northern Kentucky University, KCTCS, and showing them the ideation process so that when they have an idea in hand, they are ready to launch it in the market and take advantage of the resources, both at their institutions, but also through a vehicle like KCV. And so to think about KCV, a great way to sort of frame it is when you look at American innovation and competitiveness. I was just sitting in a presentation by Ian McClure, who leads UK Innovate. And he was explaining about how important it is for our state and our nation to be prepared to be continuously competitive in this innovation space, right? When we look at the demographics of the nation and it becoming more diverse and it becoming more people having opportunity through the proliferation of internet connection and everything, there's so much opportunity to reach into our communities and source those good ideas and support those good ideas. But the only way that we can get the most benefit from that is if we support it and we take an active role in it. So with the onboarding of Kentucky Commercialization Ventures, we're seeing a more inclusive innovation ecosystem. We're very fortunate to have been awarded 2 SBA awards within the past year. One is a Lab to Market Inclusive Innovation Ecosystems Award, and another is a Growth Accelerator Fund Competition Award. And this recognition is so appreciated because Kentucky is a national leader right now for looking at how can we support more people to participate in the innovation process and feel supported to continue churning out those products and services. So our students are in the best position, right? Because they can benefit from the innovation hubs. They can benefit from KCV. They're at a point in their career where they can start something new. We want to support all young people across the Commonwealth to get involved in innovation more often and stick with it.
That's amazing. I love the aspect of being inclusive and being intentional. And I think, it speaks to volumes of the work that's been done. And a lot of times, like I think Rick and I have this conversation quite a bit. How do you story tell what's going on in the area that really highlight the programs and the individuals going through these programs? I think that tells the story. And we
Mhm.
haven't done a good enough job of doing that. And so I think hearing these aspects of that will encourage others to get involved, but also support the existing students and going through these programs today.
Absolutely. And I have some exciting news for you, Chris. I know with you being a Kentucky State University alum, I'll highlight that we're taking this story on the road. We're really trying to get the rest of the nation and our federal government to make more investments in Kentucky because of the movement we've been making. But Kentucky State University is going to be in Atlanta in a few weeks, presenting to a group called University Industry Demonstration Partnership. And they're doing a special presentation to talk about the role of HBCUs in the innovation process and how partnership with KCV can be an avenue for more people getting access to these wonderful resources, both dilutive and non-dilutive, into the future. So this is what we mean by we want Kentucky to be a shining star. And so I'm excited for Kentucky State.
Yeah, it's a long time coming, so I'm excited to hear that news as well. Because I know those partnerships takes time, and I'm really excited to see my alma mater getting involved in and really and involved with you all. So that's really exciting news and good to hear.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. It's so super exciting things. And so I think you guys wanted to hear too a little bit about what's possible because I've been throwing around the term SBIR, STTR. Let me make it a
Yes.
little bit more clear for what it is because some people, they start looking regular and then their eyes go into golf balls and then it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, right? So let me break this down for those who may be unfamiliar. With the Small Business Innovation Research Program, this is approaching the federal government, and really any Kentucky-based small business can go after it. Yes, there are eligibility requirements, but it's generally, in my opinion, pretty open in comparison to some of the other federal instruments that I've seen. In a phase one, which is basically how to break this down, which is taking an idea that may be innovative and may have significance to making something better, solving a problem. Phase one can get you access to about 50 to 150,000 over a period of 6 months, right? If accepted. Once you get to phase two, maybe the data that comes out of it is positive. You haven't actually implemented, you really haven't started building the product completely out, but it looks promising, the initial data. You can then go to phase two, which phase two is somewhere between, I've seen 750,000 all the way up to 2 million in some cases. If you are a small business based in Kentucky and going after these federal programs and you win a federal grant and a federal SBIR grant, you may be eligible to apply for the Kentucky State Matching Funds Program. It's one of the
Okay.
best in the nation and it's managed by our Kentucky Cabinet for Economic Development. If you apply and are successful to that program, they can match that up to $500,000.
Wow.
Let me tell you how important this is. So the federal funds that go into a small business to investigate this idea that may have some sort of significance, that funding has stipulations on what it can be used for. They want to see you getting equipment. They want to see you using supplies. They want to pay the key people on the grant for their time to investigate this idea, right? Now, keep in mind, with all that I'm talking about, you're still owning 100% of the company as the owner, okay?
Yes.
Matching funds program is important because it is designed to target into the funds and the expenses that the federal government does not pay with those awards, right? So going after accounting support, going after a space. I'm actually joining today from the beautiful Logic space downtown Louisville, having access to space to run your company, right? Those two punches together of having those federal funds, but also those state funds, allow for small business that are interested in technology to launch their project in a more supported way and in a more comprehensive way, right?
Mm.
I'll tell a story to make this really clear. when I was going through training at the University of Louisville in entrepreneurship, I remember a certain professor, and she's fantastic, but she was explaining the dilutive process of going after funds to build your business. And she said, she explained the friends and family and the raises and things like that. And she said, at this point in the process is when you max out all of your credit cards and, you empty the piggy bank and all of that good stuff. And I remember sitting in the chair and hearing her and thinking, wow, I don't want to empty my piggy bank. What she was describing was, for some people, they may have situations in which they have a lot of disposable income and they can afford to risk the money needed to invest in an early stage idea. But for a lot of people across the Commonwealth, including me at one point, didn't have that, right? And so what is a way of building a business and getting involved in the innovation ecosystem without having to work yourself dry to the point that you're convincing an investor to partner with you? It takes a whole lot of commitment, a whole lot of effort to get to the point of getting that first outside investor. If you're going on the non-dilutive path, in my opinion, you can put in that effort with a lot less funds on the front end, convince the federal government instead, and in some cases enjoy a better success rate. I've heard success rates from SBIR, STTR to range anywhere from 15%. In phase 2, it goes closer to the 20. For women in minority-owned businesses specifically, we've seen in the news, sometimes that success rate of securing that investor capital is less than 1%. It's less than 5%, depending on the demographic. If a company is tech-based or innovation-based and hasn't considered the SBIR, STTR path, you're truly, truly missing out.
I'm curious on that path, right? From that phase 1 to phase 2 into the matching funds. How long are each of those phases? What does the breakdown of each phase look like? And then after that, I'm just kind of curious too, like the success rates going dramatically higher. What will you attest some of those success rates to become? Where are they coming from? Like what is it causing those success rates to dramatically go higher for minority-owned businesses?
Oh, that's such a good question. Okay, so let me take a step back and then I'll go right to your question and then extend it a little bit. So first, I should say, sometimes people think that, oh, I can't go after an SBIR grant because there's for things that are really specific. And if I'm anything different than what's really specific, then it doesn't fit. Well, sometimes that's really not the case. There are over a dozen agencies that focus on different things that participate in the program. So for example, there's the National Institutes of Health that zero in on healthcare and health and making people feel better. There's the USDA that participates in SBIR, looking at innovations that improve and protect our food systems. There are even environmental SBIR, STTRs, you name it. And really the most funded SBIR, STTR agency is our Department of Defense, right? They are looking for, and then sometimes they issue it, well, all the time they issue it in the form of a contract where they tell you what they want, and then you go and find a solution and they fund you to find that solution to implement, right? Even people that have some sort of healthcare improvement don't think about DoD, but DoD has the largest healthcare system in our nation through the VA. So truly, there's all kinds of things that you can dial into. When it comes to the timeline, I get that question a lot, Chris, because they're like, okay, phase 1 is 6 months, a phase 2 is 2 years. It takes several years to bring a healthcare product to market, right? What you'll see is, and I'm going to share, I recommend everyone on the call to check out sbir.gov. Look at the awardees, look at some of the awards that they've been making lately. Companies aren't one and done through this process. It's not that they get one phase 1 and they're done and one phase 2 and they're done. Sometimes they get multiple phase 1s and multiple phase 2s, right? The best way I like to explain it is an iPhone, right? Maybe you got the first phase 1 to look at how it connects to the internet. Maybe the next phase 1 looks at how it can fit into a military plane cockpit. You see what I'm saying? Maybe the next phase 2 is connected to the first aspect of how it connects to the internet. Maybe the other phase 2 connects to how it fits into the system. What we find is that when you really drill down and start to do your research, there are companies that have been funded into the millions and millions for one product before that one product has ever reached the market. Now, there is expectation that after this federal investment, that it does reach it to the market. We refer to that as phase 3. I cannot be more clear. It is hard. It is hard in that you have to explain and convince the federal stewards of this money that you are going to translate that idea from an idea phase to the market, and that you have a good commercialization plan, and that you have people on your team that can help you get there. But really, how is that different than convincing a standard investor? That process is hard too. That process can take years too. Oh, by the way, if you're based in Kentucky, you have our Kentucky PTAC program that's helping you get registered and eligible to go after these grants. You have our Kentucky Science and Engineering Foundation, which has an active SBA or Small Business Administration award to help introduce more people to the SBIR STTR program. We have a micro grant program where they have dedicated staff and are helping people to get technical assistance that they need to go after this. There's a whole lot of help in Kentucky right now for people that want to be introduced to this process.
Yeah, I think when we're talking about success rates, from going through SBIR, it's one, you've built a solid foundation if you've gotten into, one of those programs. And then on top of that, you found product market fit, right? And you've built a team that you've proven that can build that product. So I think those are all things that aren't required when you just jump out and start a startup and you start pitching investors. But when you go through the SBR process, then that's guaranteed that you at least have this bare minimum. And I think that definitely attributes to the success that we see. I mean, 15 to 20%, that's amazing compared to some of our startup numbers here. So yeah, that's awesome.
Absolutely. And just to be clear, from phase 1 to phase 2, that success rate does increase. So once you get that first phase 1 and you are familiar with the process, and it is hard to get familiar with the process, but once you have it and you know how to communicate with the federal government and you know how to navigate grants.gov, your chances go up significantly when it comes to getting that secondary award. And, sometimes I even get the question of, what if I'm not creative enough? What if I don't have an innovative idea, right? We've got you covered there too. Kentucky has 24 public colleges and universities across the state that are supported with commercialization support. They're University of Louisville, University of Kentucky, and Kentucky Commercialization Ventures. We keep a roster of technologies that are looking for companies to come forth, license them, and bring them to market through whatever devices that they can gather. Now, I can let you know that if you're someone who's been selling hockey sticks for the past 20 years and you want to license a technology that cures heart attacks, we're going to have some questions for you. We do our due diligence. We want to make sure that whomever is picking up this idea is going to do right by it and is going to do their best to bring it to market and are qualified to do that. But that's what teams are for. If a Kentucky startup decides that, I'm going to license a technology from one of our universities, I'm going to, before signing or approaching for that license agreement, build a multidisciplinary team around me that can talk to the different aspects of bringing it to market, you can get that license, secure access to that technology, go after your SBIR, STTR, and bring that product to market. And when that happens, everyone wins. The company wins, the university wins, those inventors wins. When we have more researchers in the university space than we have entrepreneurs that are ready and seeking something to bring to market. And that's what we need the community for.
So you mean to tell me you're saying if I'm working in an industry and I know this market, say I'm a manager or a C-level in this industry, I can go and knock on the university's door and say, hey, let me see everything that y'all got in your books of the inventions and creations, and I can pick what I think would be like the right thing for the market currently. And I can say, hey, I'm going to start a company around that and kind of lead that effort.
Absolutely. It's startup development. We are measured on that process. We are constantly working to find out how can we bring more of these innovations from the bench, as we say, the lab bench at the university, all the way to market to where it's doing public good in some sort. And we're very happy to connect you to those resources because of that relationship, right? So when we have someone that's interested in a technology or in the licensing process, I may be sending them some things like, oh, here's how you get technical assistance from the NIH. Here's how you go after the FAST program. We want to see your success, and we celebrate it even more so when it's all within Kentucky.
Do you have any case studies or use cases of of that process here locally that you could talk about a little bit, and seeing how in some ways taking that commercialization piece from a university and now has launched that company like that? I think is something that would be great to hear.
That is a great question. I'm so excited. I can't wait to brag. I love when people ask me that question. So for example, we have an innovator out of Eastern Kentucky University, Dr. Jason Marion. And Eastern Kentucky University is considered Appalachian serving. It was interesting because he had been working on a technology that tests the quality of well water, which is very relevant to Kentucky, right? There are several people in Kentucky that are still dependent on well water, but there are also people around the world that are dependent on groundwater of some sort. So he was doing some partnerships out of Kenya, working with them to test this product. And what he came up with is an affordable product by which to test this water consistently. When we started partnering with him, we worked to get him through different accelerator programs like UXL from Launch Blue. They're fantastic partners. But we approached him probably at the beginning of last year about an opportunity. We come across the Global Health Innovation Conference, and we said, you're doing awesome work here. You should go after it. And he's like, I'm not sure. There's a lot of, there's steep competition. And we're like, yes, there's steep competition, but we believe in you. And so we used our nights and weekends. Shout out to Dr. Megan Ansdus on my team for all of her efforts in coaching this team. But we coached him up and he went after it and he won. And when I tell you he was the 2021 Global Health Innovation Conference champion right here in Kentucky,
Wow.
And beat some of the Ivies that are more recognized sometimes in research, we are super proud. He went forward, licensed his own technology from Eastern Kentucky University, and created a startup called Eastern Scientific with the goal of bringing this product to market and making water quality testing more affordable for everyone. When we start to think about this example, we think of it as a slam dunk, right? We have an innovator in Kentucky creating a business around something that has huge relevance to Kentucky, and seeing that our resources that we are pouring into our Kentucky mental technology innovation ecosystem, it's just so rewarding. Same with Dr. Lindsay Cormier and Dr. Margaret Injury. They are now 3-time, I think, Kentucky Network for Innovation and Commercialization awardees for their diagnostic and treatment for triple-negative breast cancer. If anyone has checked the statistics lately, Kentucky is unfortunately leading the nation in cancer instances and rates. How important is it to have innovators here in Kentucky working on the solutions for that? This is what we love to see, and we want to see more of that process coming from community.
Yeah, I think that's so important to show off like the talent that's here in Kentucky. And I mean, some of that talent is good at creating technology, but not, building businesses. So having that, relationship there where, I like inventing, I like creating. And I mean, someone might be, better or like doing business more, and they could take that and run that ball. Like that's an awesome relationship to have. And I can keep being an inventor and cranking out cool technology. That's just really cool.
Absolutely. And can I pick on you, Ricky?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna pick on Ricky a little bit. So I call this my party trick, right? I mentioned before that there's a website called sbir.gov,
Okay.
and we may be able to drop that in chat.
We
The
dropped it in.
SBIR, oh, good, thank you. The SBIR.gov website is kind of like the big hug around the program, right? And to be clear, since 2019, the program has pumped about $54 billion in non-dilutive funding into community, small businesses, to come up with these innovative ideas and bring them to market. So it's a significant size program. But the beauty of the program is, with it being federal based, all of the awards are public, right? So when I'm talking to awesome entrepreneurs in community like Ricky, we probably did this a year ago. I said, let me show you my party trick. And I pulled up SBIR.gov and I said, give me 3 or 4 keywords that describe Brainstem U. And so he gave me those keywords and I plugged them in real time into the awardee search. And what came up? Awards. We were able to find where the federal government, as recently as within the past 6 months or so, had been making awards in other places for similar ideas to what Brainstem U was aiming for. We would typically, without the context, see it as a potential opportunity cost, right? Not necessarily so. The federal government will invest in similar ideas. They won't invest in duplicate ideas, but they want to make continuous investment because in this case, they believed in the idea of more students across the nation getting access to STEM learning and STEM programming, and they're willing to invest in multiple small businesses with non-dilutive funds to make that happen. And so what Ricky and I would do in the future is start to look at the different agencies that are investing in that mission, and then file an application and go after one of those awards. The SBIR program has been around for years and years and years, and hopefully it's not going anywhere anytime soon, I hope. And so if you think even for a moment, oh, it's too late, or I don't have enough time right now, it's okay. Come on back. Grants.gov constantly has opportunities to apply for. The cycles come around every, I think, 3 months. There's plenty of opportunity for you to get in, start to understand the process today, and start to see some benefit from it soon.
So kind of piggyback on that, Monique, like, so if I'm, I have an idea I'm mulling over and I'm thinking through, like, does the grant funding meet this idea? Is that a good way to say, if I'm building something within the ag tech space, to go in there and type in a few keywords to see if anything pops up? And if it does, I kind of have at least a clue to say I can go ahead and get started and look for the right agency to apply for some of this grant funding.
That's a great point, Chris. So yes, you would take the keywords of the idea that you're thinking about, drop them into the awardee search, and what you'll find is what are the different agencies that may be investing in agritech, for example. You'll also find what amounts are they funding it for. So are they new to funding phase ones from this, or maybe they were funding it in 2007, but they're not funding it anymore. And it helps you to drill down on the likelihood of seeing success from this agency. And because they're generous, they even throw in a public non-confidential abstract so that you can read through and see the level of technicality that they have with the idea. Because keep in mind, in this case, the federal government is the investor. They want to be sure that they can trust these federal government funds, that it's complex enough and it's likely to go forth and become a product. So having those cues are really important on the front end to give you an idea of, hey, I might be eligible for something like this. Once you've developed that interest, which you totally will develop the interest once you've done the party trick, right? That's where you pick up the phone and or send me an email. I'm at mquarterman@kstc.com. I'll get you connected to the SBA FAST program that we have here in Kentucky, that Small Business Administration FAST program, get you in some programming training to get you familiar with the process, and connect you with our procurement center to get you appropriately registered to go after it. I would also say the reason why I say start with the party trick is that sometimes in thinking about agritech, my first mind would go to, oh, that's USDA, of course. Like I would just go to USDA and see the opportunities that they have available. Yes, but there's a chance that there are some other agencies that are interested in your keywords as well. There may be some sort of opportunity through the Department of Defense that if I'd only pulled up to the USDA website, I might not know about. So I totally recommend anyone to explore and sort of open that up. I'd also recommend in this process another thing, right? So I mentioned that the SBIR.gov website has a non-confidential abstract, right? What do I mean by non-confidential? They are comfortable and have approved it for the public to be able to discover and read about this project enough that they get an idea of what it's for. It is so important for any small business interested in technology and innovation to protect their ideas. And we can talk a little bit more about the protection process because we have now a Kentucky IP Alliance that is focused on spreading more information and education about that process of how do you protect that idea and really get to enjoy the full value that comes from it.
Yeah. Before we jump into that protection of the IP, I wanted to reach back and say, so what are those hot topics right now from a government perspective, like nationally, and then from Kentucky? I know we talked about ag tech a little bit, we briefly touched on it, but what are those hot topics right now from a national perspective, and then drilling down to Kentucky? What are those problems? What are those things that we're trying to solve?
That's an excellent question. So I hate to do this to you, but I'm going to anyway. All of the things, everything, they're interested in all kinds of things. So let me explain a little bit what I mean about that. So I currently hold a title as a co-lead for the NIH's Proof of Concept Network Action Committee on EDI. And what that means is the National Institutes of Health are dialing into the importance of having more people across the United States coming up with ideas that affect human health. And they want to find ways to better invest and support those technologies so that we can better support our communities and we have happier, healthier communities, right? So anything health related, federal government typically has some sort of announcement that will fit that you can go after an SBIR. And there's a process and sort of way of going about finding that exact agency, but we will help you with that at KSTC. That's what we focus on. There are dozens and dozens of agencies under it. There's a agency for hearing technologies. There's an agency for equity in health. There's an agency for allergies, anything that you can think of. And those program managers are accessible and they do tie it to the announcement. So if you were ever in doubt, now they can't tell you, yes, you should apply or no, you should not apply, but they can give you an idea on if your idea is fitting what they're looking for when they're calling for people to apply to these awards. I mentioned the Department of Defense. The Department of Defense has billions of dollars in SBIR awards available every year, looking to make a stronger military system and healthcare system for our veteran community across the United States. I've also been seeing a lot from the environmental space, which can sometimes be hit and miss on SBIR. They have some small business innovation research awards, but they also have other things that focus on community education around the environment that are interesting too. I also am, there's sort of an area that I'm hoping to tinker in a little bit more. Last fall, I went up to Morehead, Kentucky. A lot of people don't know that Morehead State University has the largest satellite dish in North America that is non-NASA owned. It is huge and it is beautiful. There's such an opportunity to partner with that campus on space tech, right? What would happen if someone said, a Kentuckian said, hey, I have a space related idea. I want to reach out to Morehead State University. You now have an ally in Kentucky Commercialization Ventures where you can contact us. We get you tied directly to whomever you need to speak with there. We help you in whatever you need to get your product to market. Oh, and by the way, we find a way that the university can support you along the entire way. These are the sort of things that we really get excited about and the ideas that we love to see. Oh, and the Kentucky Matching Funds program also typically releases the awardees of the Matching Funds Award. So you can browse the source of ideas that are often being successful from Kentucky. It's a really transparent world out there in comparison to about 10 years ago.
I mean, I love that point, Monique, is like, I think even if you're looking at these kind of resources or any traditional type of investing, like being resourceful. Like we have a ton of information at our hands, and so like reading those press releases, seeing what investors, what type of companies are getting funded is like it's a trick that a lot of people don't take advantage of, and you can find out and target the right people all the time by knowing that information, by just reading your local business journal or researching a couple of articles on the website and seeing those press releases. You get the key players in this space really quickly. And it's a strategy I use often for myself and things I'm doing as well. But it's so important to understand the trends that people are interested in the ideals. And then that allows you to find something unique, innovative, and tap into it on your own.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And there's so much benefit from being right here in Kentucky. I cannot tell you how often other states are calling us, our phones are ringing off the hook saying, how can we support our citizens the way that Kentuckians are supported to be involved in the innovation process? Like if you're thinking about it and wondering about it and mulling over it, the time is now. It's a really good time to just access the power and the passion for innovation that is really propelling us into the future. Currently, I'm going to sound like a super nerd right here, but out of all of the National Institutes of Health investments in the nation, there are the sort of really heavily investment heavy states, right? Like your California and your coast, right? The NIH also has idea states, which are designed to say, oh, there are states that maybe don't have those super wells of funding just sitting around, laying around like the coasts do. And so these idea states, they compare against themselves rather than against some of the coasts. Out of all of the idea states in the nation, Kentucky is leading in National Institutes of Health investment.
Wow.
We're number one.
Number one.
And so when you think about that and you start to asset frame in that way, you start to think about, why wouldn't I, a regular Kentucky citizen from Hardin County, have an idea that can change the world and make our world healthier? We're waiting on you.
Yeah. So I guess moving into that IP discussion. So if you're that person with that great idea and you're sitting at home, you're like, oh man, I don't know what to do with this. And I want to take it to an investor. I want to take it to SBIR. What do you do, to begin to protect yourself? Or what resources do we have for you to begin those discussions?
Yes, the Kentucky Intellectual Property Alliance. So for anyone who may be aware, you can find us at KYIPA.org. It's the Kentucky Intellectual Property Alliance. It is a completely free and open group of people who are excited about ideation and innovation and what is possible about extracting the most value out of our innovations through the protections that are available through our federal government. Intellectual property, right? We're all familiar. Most of us on the call are pretty familiar with the idea of, if I come up with a new backpack and I'm selling that new backpack and my neighbor sees my backpack and tries to copy my backpack, that's a problem, right? We're not happy about it. They're copying me. They're making money off of me, right? The federal government has instruments available through patents, copyrights, trademarks, and trade secrets to prevent that from happening and allowing you as the designer of that backpack to get the most value out of that design as intended. And that process, similar to going after the grants process with the federal government, is complicated. There's a United States Patent and Trademark Office. They handle the reviews of it. And then I think another group does the copyrights reviews. But there's a whole system and process by which, and terminology by which, you go after seeking this protection, right? Here's the value. Our Kentucky ecosystem is so united and is on its way of being so efficient that we're even streamlining access to that, right? Our Midwest United States Patent and Trademark Office, not this Monday, but last Monday, gave a free presentation to anyone in Kentucky who's interested in learning the basics of IP. Wow. And what are they doing? They're saying, we love Kentucky. We want more Kentucky innovators. If you're interested in IP, We're not going to ask you, to go through a bunch of flips and things that you have to do in registrations. We want to talk to you. We will handhold you through that process of understanding how to go after and file your own patents, how to go after and file your own trade secrets, right? They want to see more awardees from Kentucky. Oh, and by the way, the IP Alliance is also valuable because it's so multidisciplinary. We're open to inventors. So our Inventors Network Kentucky, who's also a Small Business Administration awardee right now, it was directly co-hosting with us and connecting their inventors community. We have university and college representation. We also have our legal community on board with it. We have people from our government involved with it, and even our corporations. There are so many people that are rooting for Kentucky and believe so heavily in the value of our ideas. A Kentucky Intellectual Property Alliance made sense because we need more people to actively protect those ideas. Don't allow your neighbor to steal your backpack design. We want to see you get rich from your backpack design, right? And I'm using it as an example, but think of all of the things that can come from that, right? Innovations in agriculture, right?
Mhm.
How many times have farmers in their own brilliance come up with something to fix a problem on the farm? That can be valuable. That can be used by other farms across the United States, and you can become rich by that, right? I have a friend who is a faculty member at a university, came up with an invention that was brought into a startup company that she helped to lead. That company was acquired for $250 million. And she is still a faculty member. Her name's Dr. Linda Dwoskin, and she is a co-PI and contact PI for the Kentucky Network for Innovation and Commercialization. She's investing her time into creating more non-dilutive investment opportunities for innovators across Kentucky. On a biannual basis, we're making investments into new ideas from academia that can impact human health. These are the sorts of investments that we see that are really unique to our state and we want to see more of.
No, that's absolutely great to hear. I mean, I love it. I know we're coming up on the hour, so I mean, for those who are listening and tapped in, I love to drop any questions you have while we still have Monique on. Like, this is a great opportunity to do so. I know, and just to kind of go a bit deeper while I still have you, Monique, and questions are coming in. You mentioned like the process being a little bit more difficult, and what advice would you give someone kind of getting into that process to kind of make that, not simpler, but simplify the process to get them prepared for that application itself?
Excellent question. My first recommendation is to, one, do your research. Go to Google, type in SBIR, and start to read about everything that the SBIR STTR program is. What this will do is give you a sense of familiarity with the language, give you a better idea of the purpose and what's considered innovative, and just start to read stories about it, right? Step 2 would be to reach out to your Kentucky Procurement Technical Assistance Center. You can find us on LinkedIn. You can find us at KSTC.com. There are plenty. They just got done doing a construction diversity accelerator in partnership with UK. They are all about connecting more Kentucky businesses, small or large, to opportunities to partner with primes or large institutions or government, right? So they have counselors that are stationed across Kentucky in all kinds of towns. I can't name them all, but I remember Covington and Paducah, and they're just everywhere. And they are willing to work with you as your counselor to get you appropriately registered for the program. Once you are registered with the federal government appropriately, the next step is to get involved with the FAST program. That is the front door program from the Small Business Administration. It's an investment from our federal government to get more Kentuckians educated about the program and to access counseling to really talk them through the process of going through the application. That is a next great front door because they will coach you through all of the other resources that are available in the state as you pursue the process. So they know how to get access to the microgrants program. They know how to get access to the matching funds program, and they will share those resources with you.
That's great to hear. I mean, I love that. I mean, I definitely having somebody alongside of you in that process. Typically, like, when should the lead time to get into those resources and mentors be? How long should you expect to be in that funnel prior to actually getting into the application?
Yes. So it all depends on the organization, right? If the organization or the small business is already engaged in innovative development, the timeline is much smaller, right? Because it's just a matter of finding out where to apply to have support for that technology, right?
Okay.
If you're starting from scratch, it may take you a little bit longer, right? One, you either have to come up with an idea, but then two, maybe you're considering engaging with the university, and so you should reach out to Kentucky Commercialization Ventures, find out if there are any available technologies that you may want to run with, build the team that you need to take this. I cannot stress enough what you're building and going after these grants, as we love to say, free money is free money, but there's always a star, right? The federal government, just like the venture capitalists out there, just like the other investors, are wanting to see that you get this, that you know your stuff, that you know your business. And SBIR funding, or Small Business Innovation Research funding, is no different. They want to make sure that you understand the technology and are very capable of bringing it to market. That process of becoming familiar as a small business owner can take a little bit longer. It doesn't mean you shouldn't try and become educated about it. It just means you need to be prepared. Oh, and by the way, once you have your application submitted, it can take the federal government some time to get you an answer. Sometimes the evaluation process can last between 6 to 9 months, right? There are some that go after multiple applications and get some denials before they get their first one, right? The key here is determination and not giving up, which is no different than taking the path of doing the traditional funds raise that we see in the startup community.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was about to say. I mean, to me, it sounds like this process is exactly the same as the startup process. I mean, you're figuring out your pitch. You got to figure out exactly what they want to hear and who you need to say that to, and massaging that pitch for those different entities. So I feel like it's exactly the same thing, but I'm not giving up any equity to get the money. So, like, that makes it so much better for me. I don't know if y'all have anything else y'all want to end with before we close out.
No, I would love to hear, like, Monique, like, any last words from you. And Jen, how can we get in contact with you, keep in contact with you? And for those who are listening and want to, I think we dropped some of the links in the chat today, but if they want to even go deeper with you, like, how can we stay in contact and how can we support you?
That's a great question, Chris. And I see Cassa's question here. Hey, Cassa. I recommend, feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. I absolutely love LinkedIn. And let me tell you why. All of the programs that I mentioned today are tied into LinkedIn, and we're constantly doing outreach and events that you can be a part of. So our Kentucky Intellectual Property Alliance event, we promote on LinkedIn. You can also join KYIPA, and we'll have instructions there. KCV's there. On Friday, I'm doing a talk about relationships with healthcare payers. So when you come up with a good healthcare idea, how do you work with the healthcare companies to get it funded and insurance companies to get it funded? We're having that talk on Friday, and that's being advertised there. Thank you so much for dropping that in the chat. Please connect with me. I'm always happy to take questions. And I'm happy to connect you to the different programs. So KSTC is also a high traffic area to get connected with a lot of these things, both our venture finance arm, but also KCV, our procurement center, our Kentucky Science and Engineering Foundation, which focuses on SBIR. Really, if you know someone in your ecosystem that's tied to any of these programs, it is our goal to be connected and dial you directly into where you need to go. I am happy to be your advocate and friend in that process. I am constantly sending people in directions with a warm hug. We want to see more people involved in this process, and I'm just so excited to talk with all of you.
And I can attest to that. Monique has been awesome, shooting me emails, connecting us, with resources and folks across the state and outside of the state. So yeah, reach out to her, and she's definitely will help.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Thank
it's
you
great to
both.
have you in the community, Monique. We really appreciate your wealth of knowledge and your just your details and your passion for this community. Like it means a lot to us, and we'll continue to keep you in the loop. I love the conversation you have it on Friday as well. So it gives me ideas of how we can continue and do a part 2 of this at a later date of going down a specific lane and an avenue. I think you just have a ton of knowledge in that space. So thank you again, and I hope you all have a great day.
Thank you. See you soon.